Hi, everybody. This is the Friday update, and every time I say that, this is what it makes me think of.
Hi, everybody.
So, what can you do? But I have to start this somehow. Now, on Fridays, right? Homework is due Thursday, homework is due Monday. So, Fridays, there'll be an update, and one of the most basic things you'll notice is at the beginning of the week, I do have all of the homework posted. So you can, of course, if you know weekends aren't great work times, you can work ahead. On Friday, you'll get a web page then that just has the homework that's due for Monday. Because if everything went well, you got the homework done. Now, if you didn't, it's still right down here. So it hasn't disappeared, it's just moved out of the way. So from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, because when it says Monday, that means Monday night. Um, my job or my intent for the Friday update, I want you to see, boom, right up top. There will be a video, this video, posted right here in a minute, but there's the homework, and then here is the other things section. So there's a PDF. You can read it. Some of you have already sent me nice emails that follows those directions, so read this. Make sure you see, like the earlier video said, what the main ideas are, include all of this in the letter. And then the second part is to read chapter 12, and then there's a post on it. So to read something, be done, and not do anything with it doesn't help your brain. It doesn't do much for comprehension, right? It's better to have a discussion after you've read something. So after 12, I've got some questions for you to answer, and it already looks like, based on the first discussion, which I haven't read everybody, but I will over the weekend. Looks like it's starting out all right. And a nice thing is, looks like we have a nice variety of ages, sexes, you name it, and it's nice. And why is the variety nice? Um, because, right, you want somebody who thinks differently than you looking at your paper, right? Because if you have somebody who thinks just like you looking at your paper, they're going to go, nice job, even if it isn't, because they're thinking the same way as you. If you have somebody who thinks differently, they're going to say, wait a second, hold on. You need to explain this because of this information, or what about that? And that will help you become a better writer, because as a scholar, your view is important, but you really need to be able to look at something from multiple angles, right? And chapter 12, of course, if you've already started it, right, shows you why it's so valuable. Now, while you're reading, two things that I recommend, and it's easier with articles because there's a little bit more of space, but as you're reading, you got a little bit of margin space on both sides. Go ahead. The book isn't that expensive, and the bookstore is going to give you a quarter back for it, so maybe a little bit more, but really not much. So go ahead and write in this, make it useful. Typically on the left side, I'll put mini summaries. So this is the idea that says that here's that liberal idea that's really valuable to society, right? Here's the conservative idea. Um, and then on the other side, I'll make connections or questions. So if you're reading this, say you're reading something about liberal values or conservative values, and you've got an uncle, and you're like, wow, that's my uncle, that's my aunt. Go ahead and make a note of that, because you are making the idea sticky for your brain. If you read something, you're like, that doesn't seem right, or this is off, put the question mark, bring it up in discussion, right? Or send me an email. Um, this is a good book. It's not a perfect book. It's one person's view. And I'll give you an example. There's a part in here where he talks about, and you're going to read this on page 324. And this is what's nice about making notes, using a highlighter in the book, doing that additional stuff. I don't have to read the entire chapter again to find that. I just scan through it. Yep, here's where I underline that part. He mentions that liberals have a trait. There's a big five personality trait, and it's called openness. So liberals are more open. And then oh, somebody just came home. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and everybody's good. All right. So, openness for liberals. Then in this book, it talks about how it talks about fear and then moves a little bit into disgust for conservatives. In a sense, setting up liberals are open, conservatives are fearful. Now, I read that and I'm like, I mean, there's something going on there that's right, but there's also like, it seems kind of weird that, a mostly liberal group would find out that, hey, liberals are open, conservatives are fearful. You know what I mean? As one's like more positive, the other's negative. And then just after I read that, like 2 days later, I am listening to a podcast by a psychologist, and he says originally people were saying that right, conservatives, it was more fear, but that's not one of the big five personality traits like openness. The other, it's disgust. And so it's not fear, it's disgust. And just to explain this for a minute, think about it this way. If I gave you a glass of water and said, here, drink it, right? You would probably drink it, right? And if I said, here's a glass of water, it's 1% poop, you would not most likely drink it unless you were super thirsty and you're like, I'll get over it, right? So that disgust thing is something that helps us, all of us, whether you're liberal or conservative, not from eating food that has spoiled. And it goes into a ton of other things. But in this book, right, his idea is a bit outdated and inaccurate. It's close. But that's what happens when you write stuff down. Number one, you can read the back. You can see how much research has been done, right? And this is a pretty good book. And two, it's trapped in the year that it was made or the knowledge that that person had. So maybe somebody has 20-year-old knowledge and they put it in their book as if it's the current knowledge, and it's not. So I just wanted to put out, read this book, enjoy it. There's a lot of good stuff for it. And if you have a question about something, well, this is a research class. Let's find out. Maybe it's just some information that's factual and you don't like it, and then you just have to make an adjustment. Or maybe, right, it's one way of looking at things and there's another. Or maybe it is inaccurate, right? And you will never know unless you, number one, stop and make some sort of deal with it. Hey, something's going on here. And then, of course, doing the research to find out what's going on. All right. Now, scrolling down this list, on to the discussion. So there was 2 truths and a lie. Go ahead, if you haven't already, let us know which one was the lie. Mine, I think you have it here. So I have gone to Cuba. I didn't know it was, I thought I could bring back Cuban cigars legally because it said we could bring back $90 worth of stuff. It didn't include cigars, so I didn't know that. I brought them back. Nobody checked, so I have done that. And I did go into the Army right after high school and was in military intelligence where I learned Polish, right? I have not traveled to the 48 contiguous states. Go ahead, put your answer down. Now, I have not read everybody's. I've looked at a number, right, just to see how things are going, and it's looking like everybody is answering all the questions and having including detail, which is always nice, right? Because when somebody says, hey, nice post, and that's it, that really doesn't do much. So you want to make sure that your post has, right, 50 words in the response. Initial post 150 words, response 50. And think about, you can say you agree and explain why. You can disagree with what somebody has explained. You can ask a question, right? You can make a connection. Oh, hey, you're interested in this. Have you heard of that? There's a ton of things you can do. I also recommend, since you at a minimum, I want you to read 5. When it comes to introductions, you might want to actually just read all of them so you can see who else is in this class and find out. You might find out somebody is doing something that you're interested in, right? Or comes from a place that you're interested in, or maybe has some similar interests that might come up later, right? By reading more than you have to, you can then pick the ones that are most easy to respond to, because you might read somebody's post and go, interesting, I don't know what to say. Well, don't rack your head, right, and waste 10 minutes trying to figure out. Go to the next one. And then you might find somebody who says that this is just introductions, right? That they like The Simpsons. And then you can go, hey, I do too. That's my favorite episode, or, wherever it can go. But look around. If you see a post that's hard to respond to, go to the next one. Because most likely with 28 people, there's going to be more than a couple posts that you'll have plenty to talk about. All right. Now, procrastination, every class I have ever had where I brought this up, many people have said that's a problem I have. I know I have it, right? I used to, when I procrastinated, it would be Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. I would watch that. Now, when I get stressed out and I'm trying to avoid things, I'll go into The Expanse because I'm a junkie for good sci-fi, right? And so many of us do it. If you click on this handout, this handout right here, it has the different types of procrastination. Some of us, we don't do stuff, we won't turn it in because it has to be perfect. That's crippling. Here's what you can do if that's what's getting in your way. If you're a dreamer, a crisis maker, all of these, right, they'll give you different strategies that you can use. And procrastination isn't something you ever cure, right? It's just something about being human. Some of us are better at it than others. Some of us are better at avoiding it than others, right? So you can look at that list. That's one thing you can use to start coming up with strategies to be more effective. The other is I made this video based off of a book on habits that I read. It's about 5 minutes. Worth checking out if you procrastinate. You might get an idea that is helpful, right? So that's the video here. Now, so far the stuff that, I pause sometimes because I have 5 classes and I have to think to myself, am I talking about this class or my comp class or my mythology class? No matter what, D2L does not like Google Docs or Pages, right? It can handle any PDF. It likes rich text format, but it's designed for Microsoft Word. As a student here, you get a free copy of Microsoft Word, which is nice. That's over $100. It's got Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. So I think it's even got Outlook too, but you'll definitely use Word. You might even use PowerPoint. So you can just click here. It'll take you to the link and you download it. Use Word, and that will make turning in papers very, very easy compared to not having it. Plus, there's a couple strategies. I'll show you some things that Word has that you can use when it comes to editing and a couple other things. All right. I'll fix that date. Oh, look at that. We're done. Let me double check my list. Covered that. Oh, sort of covered that. One thing I missed. When it comes to this class, it's a little bit different, of course, than being in the classroom. But one of the things that I see get into students' ways sometimes is comparing themselves to another student as opposed to comparing themselves to where they were yesterday. So as you're writing, you might see some people turning stuff in early, tons of words, and you're sitting there struggling just to get half of it done. Forget about them. For all you know, they're on crack, typing away like a madman or madwoman, and to get stuff done, and who knows? Who cares, right? This is a class where I want you to get feedback from each other, see what people are doing, but ultimately, are you a better writer than you were before? That's it. So when you do something, right, and this is be nice about we save everything. When you get that first draft, I don't compare your draft to somebody else's, right? You're going to write another draft, and you compare your work to what you did before, right? And sometimes I think that can be very helpful, right? Forget about the other person. I know that is not as easy as it sounds, but work to compare your writing, right, your discussion posts to the last discussion post that you did, right? And say, hey, if that was great, let me keep doing it. Did I do as well as I did yesterday? If you know the last time was a little short, you didn't go into as much detail, right? Then, hey, can I go into more detail the next time? So compare yourself to yourself the day before, right? not those people around you. And the other thing is, everybody, of course, is going to choose how much they share in discussion and how much you find out about them. With 20 years of teaching, I can guarantee you there are some people in this class who have been through some stuff that you might not be able to imagine, and they're never going to tell you about it. And if you just looked at their post or something, you'd be thinking, oh man, they must have it so easy. And you don't know that their mom has cancer and they're dealing with that while they're getting this work done, right? Or as a kid, they had a hell of a time in the foster care system, right? Or you name it, right? So I bring that up just to never forget that person that you're talking to and having a discussion with has a full rich life that you really don't know what they've been through, right? And it's easy to make assumptions, much safer to get rid of them and think about sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day, and when you're writing a post, right, think about that person. Son of a gun. We are all in this class together. So when you're doing a post, we absolutely can challenge each other's ideas, right? Because we need to and have a discussion. Have you thought about this? And there's another way of looking at it, right? But what we don't ever want to do is challenge somebody's validity, right? We're all here. We all want to learn, and we all deserve respect. And sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days. Let's just make sure, right, that those bad days aren't caused by a discussion that goes south, right? I've rarely had a problem with that, but I do just like, it's a nice reminder that the people around you are human flesh and blood just like you, which is why I have us do the 2 truths and a lie, right, in the picture, so you can start getting a feel for everybody, which is really just the feel, right? Because it's very little information. All right, a little bit winded on this one, I admit, but you did not have to sit through 3 hours in the classroom. Some of you may even be in your pajamas. So I hope you enjoy the snow, right? Stay safe. This looks like a tailor-made weekend to stay inside, stay safe. Read chapter 12. I hope you have a great weekend. Email me if you have any questions.